Welcome to episode 115.
Therapy.
Whew. Join us as we explore the many ways in which we utilize therapy for growth and change and health.
And we do that both in ourselves as witches and in a circle of witches.
Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
Ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
Races,
and backgrounds.
with a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true. Our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Welcome to episode 115.
Therapy.
Yay! I think.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, good. That's what I thought, but just to be on the safe side. And speaking of being on the safe side, before we dive into the depths of therapy, maybe we could talk a little bit about some of the things that have been going on for us now.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Would you like to start?
I would love to start.
Okay, what would you like to start with?
So I went to a dance competition last weekend.
Yes, you did.
So in the type of dance that I do, and in the competitive circuit that I'm in, we dance for points, and then the number of points that someone has determines if they're in newcomer, novice, intermediate, advanced, or all-stars. So I have been dancing. I started dancing this dance in 2013, and then I started competing a little bit in 2015, and then I started placing in 2018, and then I got out of novice in 2019, and ever since 2019, I have been trying to get an intermediate point. It is a long time. Now, I do want to say that there has been a pandemic.
That's still not over.
The club that I taught at dissolved. Like, there's been some things, and so, but yeah, it's been a long time, and I've been working really, really hard. And I have a coach that I drive to a nearby city. There's not even a coach in San Antonio. Like, I drive to a nearby city to get coaching, and then I drive to another city to dance, and it's just a lot. But I love dancing. So I went to the competition last weekend. And because of the size of the competition, I needed to get first, second, or third place in my division to get a point. And the point is like what I've been shooting for the past 6 years or whatever. 6 years. So I danced and I made finals. And then I went back and danced again and
third place at the Jack and Jill.
Yeah.
And the Jack and Jill is my favorite part of the competition.
Why is that?
Do you want to finish and then?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I love the Jack and Jill because it's not scripted or not scripted. You know what I mean? But it's not choreographed.
Yeah.
And so it's two people who didn't know they were going to dance with each other until that minute. And I don't know how much time you have to talk about anything.
None.
You don't know what your music's going to be.
Correct.
You just know there's going to be a fast and a slow, right?
Yeah, there's normally going to be at least one fast song, at least one slow song, and probably like a bluesish song.
Okay, gotcha.
Probably.
So it's kind of like real dancing out on the where someone says, "Would you like to dance?" and you said, "Let's do this." And so I love the inventiveness of these people. And I know over the years they probably have all danced with each other for a number of different times, but I just love the spontaneity. And you got your point with the
I
Jack
got
and
my
Jill!
point.
Yay!
So I spent a lot of time over the weekend crying, like with happiness and celebrating, and then after, so that like because, and this is a whole other story, but because the competition is a country competition, my style of dance is done at night after everyone goes home. So it didn't start till 10 o'clock at night, both nights, which is my bedtime. So Sunday morning after I got back at like 2 a.m., I get back, and then Sunday morning I wake up and I'm brushing my teeth and I pull a muscle in my neck while I'm brushing my teeth. Probably because I was dancing all night, 2 nights in a row. So that's why I have all these salon pause patches on my neck. So it's worth it for the point.
May I respond to your comment about the salon patches on your neck?
Yeah.
So I saw that you had this, the salon patches, and I kind of assumed that there was some muscle thing going on. I thought that you had busted a move.
Oh.
And somehow in the turn, or how they caught you or whatever. So I thought that was I thought it was like a war wound or something.
Right. I like to think that it is connected to the dance, but the teeth brushing is what pushed it over the edge.
One's got to be really careful first thing in the morning with that
right?
toothbrush. It can be an implement of mass destruction.
Yeah. Yeah, like so. I'm feeling like on top of the world because of my point, and then I brush my teeth and hurt myself, and I'm like immediately humbled.
Yeah. I get that feeling. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Gone with the Wind, but when Scarlett O'Hara's first husband goes off to war, and there's all these battles and blood and stuff, and it turns out he died of a fever. I mean, like never got shot or whatever. So it's like, ouch. Ooh. So yeah. So brushing your teeth. Yeah. But like you said, it's because you had been really working it hard and doing the different catches and all that kind of stuff, particularly the neck catch.
Yeah, that's true.
So
maybe that was Well, that's my check-in. How about you? I would love to hear what you've been up to.
Sure. So one of the things I did over the weekend was watch the replay. Just a little bit of background in case people missed the episode that I mentioned this. I have been accepted as a puppy raiser with the organization Canine Companions. So that means I will have a puppy for anywhere between 16 to 18 months. And just basically socializing them, getting used to people, teaching them. I think they know about 30 commands by the time you're done, and just loving on them and just making them to be really good potential service dogs. And so quarterly they have the graduation where they go from the puppy raiser to training. And so I watched it, and it was so sweet. Well, first of all, it was so sweet and so long. So I'd seen one from the previous quarter or last year or whatever. So I knew to just skip the first hour and a half because it's just speeches, literally just speeches.
Whoa!
I did watch one speech because it was a woman who was here in Austin, in Austin, and she's very well known among the people here in San Antonio. So. And she was great. She was, you might be a puppy raiser if you coordinate your outfit to the color of your dog's hair, things like that. Yeah. So I just thought that was really, really sweet. And then they have everyone comes up and they get a certificate and they walk with the dog across the stage. And then they, like, for the rest of the day, they just, like, everyone sits around and cries. And they hug on their dogs and hug on each other's dogs. And the dogs are, like, covered with tears and snot and the whole bit. But the thing I thought was really, really sweet is that they had about 5 or 6 dogs who were not going to be going for more extensive training. They were with people who didn't require that type of training. So one of the women was one of the women that got a dog this past Friday. Is basically, I'm not sure exactly what her condition is, but it has something to do with the inner ear. So if she drops something, she can't pick it up or she'd fall over. She has no sense of balance. And so this dog was, I think they started maybe 2 to 3 weeks before graduation. She came in for training. The puppy raiser came in with the dogs and they did the training right on the spot. So they could actually hand the dog to the woman herself.
Great.
And then they showed a little video of the dog having like a bungee cord and a hook in their mouth, and they put it around the door and then they open the door for her so she doesn't have to do that. And then sometimes they can get the hook off, sometimes she has to get the hook off, but that's not a balancing move for her. She can do that very easy, but things like that, or like she dropped her keys and the dog picked up the keys and brought them to her, and he's just so happy, like the tail is wagging. He's so happy to be of service. He's an Enneagram 2,
right?
Labs and retrievers are Enneagram 2s, like hard up. So anyway, I just thought that was just sweet. These are not my dogs. I recognized one person, the person who interviewed me, knew no one else, and I like wept the last half hour of the thing. It was just so sweet. It was really, really sweet. So anyway, that was a part of my weekend, was watching puppy graduation.
I love that.
Yeah, it was really adorable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, my heart is just tender now thinking about that. I guess therapy is a tender topic too.
But was there anything else you wanted to weigh in on?
No, that was both the pulled neck and the dance competition.
Oh, you did.
I combined them into one.
Oh, okay. Okay, well. I just realized that. Okay, sorry. It's like, okay, I had a structure in my head. We were going to do the goddamn structure, okay, but we didn't have to. All right. So, yeah, the title of our episode is called Therapy. Mm-hmm. And I just want to make sure that it's clear when you talk therapy, first of all, we could have a podcast about therapy. In fact, people do have podcasts about therapy, right? And we're not, I am not at all shooting for that level of expertise, or this is just really kind of sharing my experience and my thoughts and musings, etc. on therapy. But one of the things I just want to make sure is really clear is that we're talking mainly about therapy, psychotherapy, as opposed to psychiatry, which can be intertwined and often support each other, etc., etc. But that's not my goal to discuss today.
And I think that it's really interesting to talk about therapy through a witchy lens because, as we're going to make the case in this episode, there's so much crossover between the two. There's so much layering between the two. One thing impacts the other. So I'm really excited to unpack this concept of therapy through a witchy lens.
At least the way we practice it.
Yes.
At least the way we practice it.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. So, okay. Therapy, there's a shit ton of therapy out there. I mean,
different modalities. Yes.
I mean, just
yes.
so let's talk a little bit about like why. I mean, shall I start or shall you?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, so first off, obviously there's a need. Mm-hmm. Someone feels a need for what the benefits of therapy, and the thing about it is that there's so many different types. I think. When I first thought of therapy, I was thinking of like Freudian, symbolism, et cetera, but there's tons. And I just did a deep dive just to make sure that I had some names down. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, which... Done it. So would you care to, like, one sentence to share with people?
I would define my experience with cognitive behavioral therapy is... learn why your brain does what it does so that you can undo what your brain does so that you can get it to do what you want your brain to do. So much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So much of what therapy is figuring out why you do what you do and then figuring out how to not do it, or figuring out, do you want to first figuring out what you did and then why, and then, maybe you decide, you know what? Okay. It's a coping mechanism and some, I would imagine that in many cases people say it's no longer serving you, and then they want to move on. So so that's CBT, which means something else elsewhere. But anyway, then there's EMDR.
Done it.
That's the. Oh no, that's the EFT.
Oh,
so EMDR can include that as well. Yeah, but I always think of it as the eye.
It's the eye thing, which I have also done.
Yeah. Do you like that?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know that it was discovered by someone walking?
No.
They were walking and talking about their problem. And as they were walking, your eyes naturally move across the horizon. And she realized...
Oh my God, probably the walking helped too, but...
Yeah.
And the talking, but wow.
Eventually she realized and was able to trace it to the eye movements.
That is really... And anything that crosses the meridian, like I don't know have you been with me when I've been tossing a rock from hand to hand? Anything that crosses the meridian encourages you to do some integration. So, wow! Yeah. I didn't know that.
And then related to the tapping.
And EFT, we've talked about that. I think we've talked about that.
Which I've also done.
Oh. Yeah. So, yeah. There's DBT, which is dialectical
behavioral therapy.
Go. You know what? Why don't you just...
No, keep going.
Because I know, like some of these I recognize, but I don't know. One of the reasons we're talking about this is I've been exploring it for the potential of utilizing of something myself. So yeah. So this is a lot of this is new to me. Then there's reality therapy. Do you know anything about that?
I have not done reality therapy.
I'm thinking Leslie Jones is like, bitch. This is the real life. Come on now, you can do this. Get up. It may not be, but that's what leapt immediately to mind. Is it Leslie Jones? The black woman with the really big...
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Is that Leslie Jones? My God, she's hysterical. Anyway, bitch. Okay, and then there's Jungian Freudian, which is what first came to mind for me. But there's like life coaching, which is not... I mean, I think it's a different type of accreditation. A lot of these are different types of accreditations, right?
Yeah.
Then strengths-based, which I'd never heard of until I started doing this kind of deep dive. Gestalt, is that family?
IFS,
system?
internal family systems.
Internal family systems.
Done both of those.
And is that like constellations, like how different people fit in the family dynamic?
I think you could say it like that.
Okay.
I think about, when I think of IFS, I think of parts. Sometimes people call it parts therapy.
Okay. Like parts of the family or parts of
parts
yourself?
of, like, there's a part of myself that,
gotcha. Okay.
that wants to go on vacation. There's a part of myself that doesn't want to leave.
Okay. I was thinking. So then, when I saw that, that's what I was thinking. But there is another type of therapy where they talk about like the family itself as a system and the different roles that people agree to play in that, and then the tensions that arise from that. And a dear friend of mine works in that type of modality a lot. Then there's AA, which is a type of therapy, right? A group.
You mean like
Alcoholics
Anonymous?
or addicts?
Oh,
yeah. Well, that's considered therapy. You
I have strong feelings about
Okay.
about AA and other things.
Okay, and would you care to share or no?
No.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm just saying that people often use that as a form of therapy.
Yes, and in fact, I recently went to a week-long intensive, and it was taught through the lens of AA.
Gotcha.
And I think that's part of the reason why I have strong feelings about it.
Okay, we can discuss later. I'll pour some more tea, and we can
spill the tea as we pour the tea.
Exactly. And then retreats, intensives,
and
camps, a number, and then there's therapy. So when we talk about intensives, there are like actual in-home, not in-home, residential therapy places as well, and I'm not even touching on that.
And I've done a lot of like personal growth retreats. I've done a lot of intensives. Like I recently went to a Gestalt intensive, week-long intensive. And then I work at a summer camp that's designed around social and emotional intelligence.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The more I hear about your camp, the more I just fall so in love with it. Yeah. What's L?
Oh, I put L's next to all the different types of therapy that I've done. I've done so many different types of therapy.
Okay.
But
I saw the others and I'm thinking, okay, great. Thank you.
Also couples counseling, which we'll come back to in a second.
We'll definitely come back to go.
Moving on for a moment.
So some of the reasons we had started talking about this, and that's why there's so many different types, is because, first of all, no one person, I would imagine, responds the same way to anything, right? And so some of these work better for people who want, give me an action plan, or some people need to really just sit and so there's different, they respond to different parts of it, right? But you go to therapy for a number of different reasons. So for me, I would say it's maybe depression and anxiety. I'm just feeling certain things and talking to my friends, which is great. It's not necessarily moving the needle, and it's not meant to, right? But then there's other reasons too. Would you?
Sure. I go to therapy I have PTSD and complex PTSD, so I've been in therapy for a long time working on those things. I also went to therapy before my divorce, and I'll share more about that later. But and then I also attempted to go to couples therapy for
so many attempts
in my marriage, my previous marriage. So there's just a lot of reasons, interpersonally or intrapersonally, to go to therapy. And I think it's really important to know about the different modalities of therapy, because I think our general cultural belief is therapy is you walk in and lay down on someone's couch and then you tell them about your problems. But really, there's all these different types of tools. Exactly right. Yes. And some of them you don't even have to, like when you do like EMDR, you actually don't even have to talk about the problem. Like there are certain types of therapy where you don't even have to talk about what happened. And that's really good, especially for survivors of violence.
For whom the actual talking about it recreates some of that.
Right. So it's really important, I think, to advocate for oneself, to think, what am I looking at working on, and how can I best go about tackling that, and what tools are at my disposal?
For sure, for sure. And one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, we're talking specifically about the different types of therapy, but in many cases, therapy works best. How do I want to put this? In many cases, therapy works when someone is working with a psychotherapist and a psychiatric specialist as well.
I have both. Yes.
So as a psychiatric doctor, because then you can bring medication into it as well, which can help in a number of different ways. And as you know, we could talk about more if we need to. But so I want to say that I just want to make it clear that I am not advocating just therapy. I'm advocating people figure out what's going to be the best way to get the support that they need so that they can develop to the best of their ability.
I've done therapy and medication. I've done therapy without medication. So, it definitely depends on the case.
On the case, yeah. So we were talking about some of the reasons that people would go to therapy, reasons that they would be involved with therapy. Would we like to talk about some of the reasons that people don't? And can I start? I resisted for a long time because I just thought, how can this is, it's going to sound kind of arrogant and I don't mean it to, like, I'm so complicated. How can this therapist help me when it's going to take forever for the therapist to get to know all of these complicated things that make me so fucked up? You know what I mean? And then I was talking to someone and they said, they don't really care. They just start where...
Yeah, they just start.
Yeah. So...
Well, I think that you bring up a really great point, which is I am my own worst enemy in that way. Like I oftentimes I am what is getting between me and what I really want. So coming up with reasons like I'm not in a good enough place yet for therapy, or I'm just trying to like get my stuff together enough so that when I go in, like I can really like... show them like my true authentic self. So I just need to get some things in order for like,
that's what they're there for.
Right?
Yeah.
I can really do a number on myself.
It with a good therapist, there's, like, they're human beings. So like there's some good ones, there's, but still, yeah. But those are maybe reasons that we might invent to keep us from moving forward. Are there good reasons for people to not do therapy, or not good reasons to avoid it? But
there are real reasons.
There are real reasons.
Exactly.
That's a good way of putting it.
The expense. Therapy can be really expensive. My partner's insurance only covers crisis intervention therapy, so he made an appointment for a therapy session, and when the assessor found out he wasn't suicidal, they terminated the call.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a real disappointing thing. Certain levels of insurance or certain types of insurance don't cover it. People who live in rural areas may have a hard time finding therapy. Although telehealth is now, I see my therapist through telehealth and it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I thought that I would not like telehealth therapy. I thought I would want to be in person, and I think I do enjoy being in person, but with a good therapist I can do telehealth.
Right, because they get to know you.
Yes.
And then they get a sense. They may not necessarily be in the room with you to get your energy, but they can read enough of the cues that they can get that makes sense. Yeah. And other expense time,
childcare.
We talk about I keep coming back to the fact that for some people, they literally don't have the time between working at least one job, taking care of their children, maybe two jobs or whatever. And just, it's almost a luxury for them, and not something that could really help them. I mean, I'm not saying it's a luxury. I'm saying in that situation, it feels that way.
Yeah. I would like to see our culture and our insurance system set up in a way that's centered access to therapy, the way that people talk about accessing other healthcare, but also our healthcare system. But
yeah, so it seems like we're both kind of aligned in terms of recognizing the value of therapy, even though we'll tell.
Hey,
we've got some stories. But what are some of the things that we should? Let's say, okay, Kimberlyn, I'm ready to do this. I've looked up some therapists. I've gotten some names from some friends. Thank you very much for sharing
You're
and
welcome.
collecting some names for me. And I'm ready to dive into this. So if you had to sit down and say, Kimberlyn, these are some of the things you need to keep in mind when you start your therapy, what would you say to me?
The first thing I would say is therapy is like a gym. You can go into a gym and you can just sit there for 3 hours a day,
and get a
7 days a week, right?
Get a juice and watch everybody. Hey,
use the showers, hang out, watch the TV, and then go home. Therapy is like the gym. Like, you get in what you put in.
Okay.
So, or you get out what you put in. So, I can go to therapy, and if I am not honest with my therapist, if I do not take my therapist's advice, if I don't make sure that I'm with a therapist that is vibing with me, because I've had therapists that I'm sure they're great for other people, but they are not what I'm looking for.
Gotcha.
So really making sure that I match with that therapist, and I'm putting in the effort, and I'm putting in the effort to use the tools that they give me, because just like, it's not a magic wand going and then them blessing you doesn't fix, air quotes, fix what you're seeking.
Be thee healed.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. That makes so much sense. Anything else?
Maybe I would also say therapists are humans. So therapists make mistakes. I was just talking to my best friend. We were driving up to Austin to dance, and we were just talking about how sometimes therapists make mistakes too. They're humans. But if I have a good connection with my therapist, we can repair. I make mistakes, they make mistakes, but overall, our journey is one of coming together and moving in that healing direction.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's what I would say. What about you? Is there something you would keep in mind?
I think I'm totally with you where you what you get out is only reflects what you put in. And I one of the things we said as an invalid reason is I don't have my head straight on my head on straight enough to really do this, and which was kind of it's not exactly the words I used for many years, but it's kind of that same thing. It's like how can we dig through all the garbage? And it might have been you, but someone said, they had, a friend told me this. I just thought it was the most dear story, how they they had their journals and stuff. And they had a whole bunch of material that they had ready for their counselor. And the counselor was it you? Okay.
Oh God, so embarrassing.
Oh, do you mind if I?
No, please tell it. It's just embarrassing. I look back and I'm like, oh my God.
But you had I think journals, and maybe you'd done some reminiscing and all this. But you had a portfolio.
Yes,
and you brought it with you.
Explained my history and what was going on.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that way they could get acquainted with the situation prior to me coming in.
My thinking exactly.
Right?
My thinking exactly. It's like, how are they going to get the totality of me?
Yeah.
That's their job. And I think, didn't you say that she just kind of pushed it off to the side and said, okay, let's talk.
Yeah. I'm like, I gathered all those materials.
You over-prepared.
I'm sure if I had paid her hourly rate, she would have read.
You'd have been, okay, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, but yeah.
Now looking back on that, I'm so embarrassed that I did that.
No, but but you took what I would have used as a stumbling block, as an obstacle to not actually start therapy, and you overcame it so that you came ready. I mean, you did what you needed to do so that you could be ready.
Yes, that is a survival technique from my trauma, and I've learned that through therapy.
It's such a process, isn't it?
It is a process. Speaking of process, would you like to share some personal stories?
Oh yeah, So my very first therapy was when I was in grad school, and I was working on my. I was getting ready for my comps, and that's a very, very stressful time. And so I can't remember. It was through my university, and I think the person that I saw was actually a trainee, but not a student teacher, a resident. And it was kind of, and I specifically wanted a black woman because I wanted, I felt that some of my concerns and anxieties were because I was the only black woman. There were two other women in the program at the time, but with 17 men, 15 men. And so I wanted a black woman because I thought she could understand me better and blah, blah, blah. There was nothing. There was nothing. And it was probably, to be fair, looking back now, I probably came with so much baggage that I thought had to be unpacked before we could move forward, that she would try to take a step forward and I'd throw some luggage at her and she'd trip over the luggage and then she'd get up and try to start another conversation. I'd throw some more luggage at her, and looking back, but it was just not helpful at all for me. And I'm sure she didn't get her hours in either. Or maybe she did, who knows, but it couldn't have been, it couldn't have been, like, I'm sure she wished she could have helped me more, and I wasn't having it. So that's my first experience. Yeah. You want to hear about more? Or
Yeah,
you want to,
more.
Okay, so...
More.
So then my next experience was actually pretty brief. I was married for a time, and my ex had some anger management problems. And, he would say things like, I make him angry and blah, blah, blah. And I would always say, okay, so let's say that's a given. I make you angry. I'm sure your boss makes you angry too. Do you yell at your boss? Do you verbally abuse your boss? And so that was always a great argument ender for me. Until he was put on 2-week suspension at work.
He's like, I'll show my wife.
So he had to do, I think, something like 5 days of, I think he had to do daily, like during the week, daily therapy for those 2 weeks.
I gotta say, I kind of think that's cool.
Very cool. They don't play well.
That's a very progressive stance on it. In some ways,
this is Washington State, so they have different different places, and they want their cogs to work really well.
In education, you just get fired and replaced with another cog.
That's true, but machinists have really specialized skills, and he was a really good machinist. Anyway, and so during that 2-week period, I think the therapist asked if I would come in and sit in. And so it was interesting, and, I got some insight, and I actually heard my ex share a couple of things that I just didn't know about him. So that was helpful. Then the next 2 times, so my last 2 experiences with therapy were couples therapy. And the first time was this guy that he found because of other things that we were involved in. And so this guy was kind of like him, a very dominant personality. And I suspect they were kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And I'm the little woman. And they're kind of talking and not talking over my head, but I felt as if to be fair, I was very passive aggressive. So that could have had something to do with it too at the time. But that was not useful. The last time, I think we actually had a good therapist. It was imago therapy. Are you familiar with that? So it's the idea of like what's in your soul and what your soul feels it needs. And so those are the type of people you either are drawn to or you distance yourself from. And so it talks about those soul needs as a part of the therapy. And these were not the words that my ex used, but basically in our first session when we got there, he was basically saying that all of the examples he gave were examples of why we're there so she could fix me. So our relationship would be better. Yeah. So yeah. So ouch. Yeah, ouch. So she was actually really good. I really liked her. And to be fair, again, I don't know if I was ready. I was still in a very passive aggressive thing. I wanted it to work. I wanted us to work, but I didn't. But I was pushing against his dominance. And can I just tell you one real quick story? So there was a couple of things. One of the things he said he had a list. He literally had a list written on paper that he would check off as he explained it to the therapist. And one of them was it drove him nuts that when I left the room I'd leave the lights on. And, then that the house was always ablaze and it was so expensive and blah, 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 and like electricity. And she said, well, what if Kimberlyn pays the electric bill? Because we had a joint account and then we had our individual accounts. And he went blustering on about, well, light bulbs and the filaments they're running out of them and all this kind of stuff. And she said, well, what if Kimberlyn bought the light bulbs? And he was just not having any of that.
Because it's not about electricity or light bulbs.
No, it's not. It's not at all about electricity. That whole list. But anyway, I just thought that I just remember her saying,
Yeah.
Just kind of addressing the surface. So he had all of these surface things that were hiding the underlying stuff. And so she was basically she saw the list and she said, okay, yeah, I'm getting paid by the hour.
Right.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of countering. So he walked out 2 times. The second time was the final time. But, yeah, so that therapy was not as successful as it could have been. But those are my experiences with therapy.
But before I share mine, can I say something I really...
For sure.
I like to echo something that you said, which was like that you were at one point in your story, you said you went to therapy, but you really weren't in a super great place for receiving that information. And I think that's a really great point, which is like, I've got to make sure that I am doing what I need to do so I'm in a place of receiving. And you could even go to therapy to work on being ready to go to therapy.
Well, it can come back to the gym analogy.
Yeah.
So you can go to the gym and you can kind of do the things, but if you're not doing them with the proper form, maybe getting some feedback from somebody who might say, would you like a couple of tips on your squats or whatever? Then you think you're doing the work, and you might be putting a lot of effort into it, but like you say, it's not, it maybe not being absorbed, it's not soaking in, it's not, you're not getting the full benefit of the exercise.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that's me. Let's hear a little bit about your therapy journey.
I have a long relationship with therapy. I started going to therapy when I was in high school. I drove to a neighboring town. This tells you about my hyper independence. I drove myself to therapy in high school. What sophomore in high school drives herself to therapy after school? I don't know. I did. So I saw a therapist from when I was a sophomore through my senior year. It was not that great. But I guess it got me through high school. So I was also like on a lot of medications for anxiety and depression. And then when I went to college, I started working at the camp, which is a social emotional development camp. And it was probably one of the wisest decisions I ever made because I learned so many things there about conflict resolution and eye referencing and cycle of beliefs and all these things. And it really helped me grow and gain perspective on why I am the way I am and how I want to be and what I can do to take responsibility to get there. So that was really great. And then I started doing the adult version of camp, which is like where camp was based off of. And so again, what type of college student? Once a month I'm volunteering at this camp on the weekends, and then once a month I'm driving up to St. Louis, this nearby city, 3 hours away, to do adult intensives around personal growth. Like
you're an amazing person.
This is what I'm doing, like during my college years. It like I look back at it, I'm like, what? Like, how?
Well, how? But may I just chime in really quickly?
Yeah.
What you're doing is kind of like when we were talking about when you do psychotherapy with psychiatry, it can kind of like really amp it up. I mean, think about this. You're opening up because you're in university. You're in college anyway. And so you're learning all these new things. And you're also getting the part that no one gets in college, which is the social, the emotional development and work, etc. So it's like college to the 20th degree for you. Mm-hmm.
It really was. And
wow.
it was a very transformative period in my life where I learned a lot about myself and I grew. Then I returned to therapy like during my young professional. I had a little bit of a break where I kept doing those adult versions of like the adult personal growth retreat and then the volunteering at the camp, which I eventually started leading. And then I returned to like more traditional therapy in 2013, and I went into work on my PTSD, and then I ended up coming out of it divorced. Which, you know...
Remind me when we talk about our circle, I want to talk a little bit about that.
When one starts unpacking things, you know, just things began to become clear to me. Because, you know, it's like a web. I pulled on one string and it impacts, you know, I turn on a light in a room and it illuminates everything in the room. Even the things I didn't know were there. I did couples counseling where I was the only one that went. Recently I did a family of origin trauma It was so this is really interesting. So it was based on an inpatient intensive that was then done outpatient, but then they condensed it as if it were inpatient.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a retreat of an outpatient of an inpatient, and it was based in Gestalt. And so that was really good for me. And then I'm still I currently am still in therapy. And then I just wanted to share like a little anecdote, which is like, I recently had a milestone in therapy where I was finally ready to move forward with like some actions on taking care of myself. It took me 10 years of therapy.
It takes as long as it takes.
10 years of therapy. And then one morning I woke up and I just had an inner sense of, it was very witchy. I just knew. And like my therapist and I have been talking about it for years. And I just woke up one morning and was like, oh, now is the time. I'm good. Ready to go.
Wow. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
That is not kind of amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were ready. It took as long as it took, and then you were ready to do it. You're ready to do the things, ready to do hard things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glennon Doyle. Yes.
Glennon Doyle. That's right. Yes. Congratulations. That's got to be a great feeling.
It is a good feeling.
Kind of crappy feeling too, because
yeah.
there's a reason why you've been putting it off, right?
Right.
But still, a wonderful feeling to actually embrace it. And
yeah. And I do want to say, so I have a very extensive history with therapy. I have had therapists that have not been that great. I've had therapists. I interview my therapist before I select them. So I have not picked certain therapists. I have had certain therapists tell me they don't think they're a good match for me. And I have left a therapist before because I did not feel like she was practicing with integrity. So, wow. So yeah.
So, not necessarily during this recording, but because I'm in I'm in that phase now where I'm looking for someone. I would love to hear from you some of the, how would you feel about sharing some of the things that you were looking for when you talked to these therapists?
Well, I was really clear about the things I wanted to work on. And I also, by this point in time, I knew I could easily name, like, these are some of the things that I'm struggling with. I have complex PTSD. I have PTSD. I have struggled with anxiety and depression. These are the types of things that I experienced growing up. So these are the types of things that I'm bringing. Do you feel like that's something that you have experience working with? How do you feel about that? And then I've also said that, like, I've looked for specific modalities. So for example, like complex PTSD has certain types of modalities of therapy that are really good for treating it and some that are not that great. Just like working with ADHD or working with bipolar or working with borderline personality, like the different things, different types of therapy are good. So I tried to find therapists that were trained in modalities that were matching what I was looking to work on.
Wow. So that you've given me a lot to think about, because I hadn't, as you see, I just discovered the wealth of different ways of dealing that. And thank you so much. That's a great deal of insight. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Yeah. I also think, like, just personality-wise, sometimes people just, regardless of how great, I'm sure they're a great therapist, but our personalities just don't vibe.
Yep.
So, So, as a witch, this is something that I find really interesting. Anecdotally, I have a belief that people who are attracted to the craft are seeking growth and change.
Yes. So one of the things that I thought was, when you were talking about, you did this therapy and you were doing the therapy because of personal issues, but then it impacted your relationship and you ended up getting a divorce. And one of the jokes that we had in our circle for many years was that people would come to our circle and start doing a lot of personal development work, and then they realize, oh, I'm gay, or they realize, I don't want to be married anymore, or, or I'm quitting my job and becoming a whatever. And it's, I find it fascinating how so much of this work, which seems like it's about being outside of yourself, like being in nature, being on this, really is a way of working with yourself. depending on the type of group that you're with. Our group is very much into personal development, transformation, and change. So
yeah. So I think that a ritual practice can support personal development, but it should not be in place of.
We have a woman in our group that has told people, we are not your therapy, because there's so many different ways in which they intertwine and can reinforce that, but we can't be your therapist. You need a trained professional to take care of that kind of thing. Yeah. So,
and I've had experiences where things come up for me in ritual that I take to my therapist, and I've had things where I've worked on in therapy, and then in ritual I'm like, oh hey, here it is again.
Isn't it brilliant though?
And it's wonderful.
And you're actually hitting it on two different levels, right?
Yes.
Or the levels are becoming interwoven, and you're kind of creating a tapestry of interaction with that.
Yeah.
I think it's really brilliant. And again, just like with anything else, like you said, going to your therapist, there's a certain level of responsibility that you have to take to be in relationship with the therapist so that it will work for you, that their therapy will help you. But similarly, when you're working with personal development, there's a responsibility that you bear. There's a responsibility that I bear when I come into ritual, either as a facilitator, as a participant, that I need to keep in mind as I'm doing the work.
And I think one of the things that our circle does really well is we have agreements that are already in place. And so what that can mean is that whenever I'm in a ritual space, there are already these guardrails. And we have an agreements episode where we talked more about those agreements, but having those agreements already in place helps me keep myself in my lane so that I can be in shared space doing my own independent work and then bringing energy to the collective work in a way that's not taking away from your journey.
Exactly. And right. And we've talked about this, about the fact that we'll all be contributing energy to perhaps a common goal, but we're also, there's going to be individual interactions and individual results because of, by virtue of contributing energy, you get energy back. And so it's going to be different for each woman in that circle just because they started out as different women in that circle, right? And it's really powerful to see, for me, it's often as a facilitator, to hear someone say, that's just what I needed, after a ritual. And it's like, well, we did it because I felt the need. but the person may not have had the same needs as me, but because of what they were bringing to the party, they got a different parting gift, right?
Yeah.
Than me, but it was still a powerful party gift.
Something interesting for me is that in our circle, since we are a Dianic circle, so it's women, I see that we have these societal norms that center women as caretakers. And so being in a circle of women and having that kind of beat into us, it can be a really interesting experience where that pops up a lot. And I see us really actively trying to name it to break that sort of caretaking cycle. Like I have this memory of, we were doing ritual, the space that we use has an indoor and an outdoor area. And we were having ritual down at the outdoor area, and there's rocks and grass. And a woman stepped in an ant pile. And I remember it happened during ritual, and like she started kind of brushing the ants off of her feet. And she's like, I stepped in an ant pile. And somebody turned to her and said, like, do you need help? And she said, no, I'm going to go home and wash my foot off and put some medication on it.
We're talking fire. This is Texas. We're talking not your little cute little fairy ants. We're talking fire ants.
But I was ready to like stop, drop, and roll. And in that moment, I realized, like, look how ready I am to abandon everything from myself to step in when she is totally capable. Now, if she were like deathly allergic to fire ants, then of course I think we would have stopped. But in that instance, she was fine. She was uncomfortable, but she was fine and capable. And that was like a huge learning moment for me. witnessing our agreements in motion,
for sure.
of taking care of self.
Yeah, yes, and letting people have their own experience, which is not an actual agreement, but all of these agreements tend to end up, letting people have their experience and not trying to control the experience for them. Yeah. So we talk about the ways in which we have, conducted personal development, supported ourselves in transformational activities. Would you like to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done?
Yes. I know that in conjunction with therapy, I see it as like a wraparound. Like there's more things that I can be doing that both enrich my therapy and my therapy enriches my magical practice. So using tarot, like any sort of divination, like using tarot or
scrying, like the water bowls.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, get me looking into a fire. Yeah. I will have like personal revelations, like out the wazoo. I love looking into fire.
Yeah. And I think for me, so a lot of therapy, not all therapy, because we were just talking about all these different types of modality, but so much of it is about talking. And for me, ritual is often not about talking. It's about more being and allowing myself to the change to take place in real time, because of whatever we're doing. Right?
Wow, you're like you're speaking something that is true for me that I've never put words to. Okay, so therapy is like more like talking and processing. Ritual is more being. And what was the other word you used?
I don't know. Well, I think I'll catch it on the edit. But
like
just being and letting it, just being in real time, and there's still transformation. There's still change that's taking place, but it's because of the stuff that's going on. It's because of the activities, and I'm just allowing that change to take place.
Oh, man, that is so my experience.
And I get it most. I don't get it most, but one of the times I get it is when I'm chanting and drumming. And and often people will say, well, like in ritual, people will have an activity, they're journaling or they're writing a letter or they're doing art or whatever. And I'm holding this space and they'll say, well, don't you want to turn? And I could take a turn, and somebody else will drum and sing for me while I do that. But yeah, I can. But I can also watch everybody doing that and have, kind of have my moment of transformation, though I'm not doing the exact same activity, because I'm opening myself up to the energy of change that's in that room at that moment.
Yeah. For me, it's movement. Sometimes it can happen when I drum. Drumming is like dancing with my hands.
Yes.
Hand dancing.
Hand dancing.
But like whenever I am able to like move through ritual, like that's when it gets really powerful for me. And I feel that transformation takes place. Right.
But we have so many different ways. Just even our ritual language. So that's back to speaking again, but in a more ritualized way. So it's not necessarily the words I would use to express my reality to someone else in that moment. I'm using the words that we decided this is the way we're going to call with fire, whatever. But that ritual, that injecting my energy into maybe a different set of words than I might have normally used is still very, very powerful, because I'm channeling this energy into something that is there for me to then open up and experience. And so that interchange, I think, is one of the ways in which, if I allow myself to relax into it, can be one of those moments of incredible transformation, incredible change.
I've also, outside of ritual time, there's she's been on our podcast before. I think it's called Pagan Feminist Astrologer.
There's a shaman in there, isn't there?
Shaman,
yeah.
Astrologer, yeah. Feminist shaman astrologer.
Yeah.
And her astrology practice has really offered me some really powerful insights. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It is almost like, it can be considered therapy, because just because it helps me to know myself better. There'll be certain things that she'll say and it's like, not resonating. And then certain things she'll say and this gong will go off in my heart and make my head ring. And I'll say, you need to hold up. Hold up. Give me a moment.
Whoa.
Exactly. So
another thing I really appreciate about our circle, and this is blurring that line between like physical healing and psychological healing, and I actually don't think there is a line between the two of them. I think that they are overlapping. But our circle, we have a annual tradition that we offer a healing ritual, and I think it's really powerful to think about how we can tap into the healing power that each of us has for ourselves.
For sure.
And then offer that both to ourselves, to our circle, the other people in the circle who are wanting it, to the world. Because I think oftentimes we think of healing, even psychological healing, as something I have to get by going over there. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes can be true, right? Like if I need like cancer treatment, I need to go over there and get it.
Yeah, right. You need to go where the drugs are.
I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes the healing is in myself, and the healing is in the people that I'm in space with. And it can be both of those can be true, and sometimes one or the other. But we started doing this healing ritual because we noticed, look at all of the resources we have here in this community.
So, and I'd like to add to that, there is a man here actually in Kerrville who is Lakota, I believe. And one of the things that he says is that his teacher, his cousin, I don't know if she's actually a physical cousin, but said that he said something, I feel really stupid about this. And she said, well, the best way to learn about it is to teach it. Mm. And I think about that with our healing ritual, where I might be offering healing to someone else, but I'm being healed by virtue of that offering, by harnessing that energy, that it's not just going out, that either some is staying, or it's bouncing around, or it's cycling, or it's going and coming. I'm not quite sure, but offering healing is often very healing for me.
Yeah. And
that's not the Enneagram 2. That's really just being in the moment and allowing myself to feel the feels. Mm-hmm. So,
and we've had people in the healing ritual do everything from tarot to like Reiki energy type things. Someone once created a soft place with pillows and blankets and rocking chairs so you could snuggle in. Tuning forks.
Yes.
Like healing with the ears.
And then there was one with different types of metals. Remember? Iron and things like that. So yeah, different ways of approaching that. Crystals. There's so many different ways that we can utilize essential oils, that we can utilize sensory, emotional, physical modalities to help ourselves move further along our journey. Okay, let's talk about the poem. That sounds like an end to me. I mean, my voice went down low, but whatever.
Speaking of moving further along on their journey, this poem is by Andrea Gibson, who recently passed away on July 14th of 2025. They were a phenomenal poet, someone that I really enjoyed their work. They were a poet and activist, which is probably why I enjoyed their work so much, because their poetry often involved both. And their poetry focused a lot on gender norms, politics, social justice, LGBTQ topics, life, mortality. And Gibson was appointed as the Poet Laureate of Colorado in 2023.
Wow.
But I consumed a lot of their poetry through the internet, through social media. And that's actually where one of the poetry pages that I follow shared one of their poems shortly after they passed. And I thought it was really appropriate for talking about therapy. It's called What Can't Be Taken. And it was from You Better Be Lightning, which was published in 2021.
Trauma was not being able to get the hands of the clock off me.
Healing was learning no one has ever laid a fingerprint on the part of me that's infinite.
Beautiful. Short and to the point, and insightful and incisive. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our Witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!